My name is Dixie Lawyer. I'm president of Circle City Legal Secretaries, and we are so glad to have so many people here today. Our topic for our panel is going to be Don't Get Left Behind, the Evolving Legal Secretarial Field. And I just want everyone to know that this organization has been around for several years. Great networking, great members, and if you're not a member, please see one of us about it. You will never regret the fact that you have the networking system behind you and all the information that you can get. I want to introduce our co-chairs for our Education Committee who has put this together for us today. Marguerite Winslow with Barnes & Thornburg, and Linda Blakelock with Faegre, Baker & Daniels. So I am going to turn it over to them and let them introduce your panelists for today, and then at the end I will close us out.
Thank you so much for attending. I really appreciate this. I'm very excited about this topic. It's been something that's been in my head for a long time, and I'm really appreciative that you were interested enough to take some time out of your lunch and your day to come and attend. I wanted to introduce our panelists. We've got Mary Daly, Greg Cummins, and Sherri Umbaugh. I'll start with Sherri. Sherri is the Director of Human Resources at Hall Render. She has been with Hall Render for 19 years, beginning as a float legal secretary and working her way up to a director level position. So it is possible. Sherri serves as a member of the firm's Human Resources and Mission Value Culture Committees and has been instrumental in implementing the firm's wellness plan. She's also a member of the Society of Human Resource Management, the Association of Legal Administrators, and the Indiana chapter of the Associate of Legal Administrators. Greg has been staffing law firms for about 13 years, was a legal administrator for 3.5 years, and is a current business partner and past board member of Indiana Association of Legal Administrators, and a past member of the year and current sponsor of Circle City Legal Secretaries. Greg brings a unique perspective to the panel because he has been on the hiring side of legal secretaries as a legal administrator and has also marketed legal secretaries to legal administrators by matching secretarial talent with law firm needs. Mary has worked in the legal industry for over 20 years, focusing the last 12 years on technological training. She is a member of the International Legal Technology Association and American Society of Training and Development. One of Mary's guiding principles is from Mahatma Gandhi, quote, "Live as if you were to die tomorrow, learn as if you were to live forever." So these are our panelists, and I want to hand it off to them to start the discussion. Thank you.
I guess I'll start the topic. One of the highlights here, or the things to start with, is where are we now? And I think probably you are better suited to even answer this question than I, but I think we would probably agree where we're at right now. You're seeing less dictation, the traditional skills. I know at our firm, I get that question quite often from our assistants. They love it and they miss it, and I've done it before, and it's great. I love doing that, but it's just the attorneys are more advanced with the email communications. They're doing a lot more of their correspondence just via email instead of the transcription. So I know we're seeing less of that. We're seeing more project-based work for our legal administrative assistants. They run large projects for the attorney with very little guidance or limited guidance. You see a lot of, right now we're seeing a lot of time and energy spent on efficiency. What is the most efficient way to prepare a document? Is it using styles? Is it using X, Y, and Z? So focusing on efficiency is going on right now a lot, especially in the technology field. You probably are realizing more and more programs law firms are rolling out, and you're expected to learn those. And that is not necessarily replacing the human, but it is making us much more efficient. So having those technology skills and being willing to learn and having a positive attitude about it instead of, fighting, or this is how we used to do it, or whatever. Just be very open-minded about software and learning the software. That's going to make you very valuable. So as far as where we're at now, the other topic would be you may be seeing when legal administrative assistants leave the workforce, you are likely seeing firms trying to disperse the attorneys that assistant supported and absorb the work instead of running the ad and getting another person in. So you definitely are being asked to do more with less, I guess. So that's the role of technology. It's trying to help the ratios. We all hear the word ratio all the time, and so that is consistently a topic within law firm management. Is where are we at as far as ratios? Who's supporting how many and that type of thing? And for me, and I don't want to hog the mic, but it does definitely depend upon practice group as far as the ratios. And so, if you're in a very document intensive area, you're not likely going to be able to support as many attorneys as if you were supporting those that are just right out of law school. They're very, very self-sufficient, and the things that they would need an assistant for are, guiding them through how to figure out who does what in the law firm environment, and, just kind of pointing them in the right direction. Proofreading, grammar, those things. Electronic filing, those are all going to be very helpful. So I think that's kind of where we're at from my perspective, unless you have...
Yeah, not much to say. The core legal secretary is still there, still needed in daily operations. And then we move on to where are we going? As far as the workforce is concerned, you can all smile. There's hope for everybody out there.
We need you.
Nationally, during the recession, we had about a 6% decline in legal secretary jobs nationally. Fortunately, Indiana only had about a -2% decline, which is good. We weren't hit as hard as everybody else. I don't know if anybody saw the Wall Street Journal's article about the dying legal secretary. That role, that got a lot of rebuttal from a lot of columnists came back and said, debunking the article. And they're pushing more of educating people on it's more of an aging workforce. If you look at nationally, if you look at legal secretaries across the board, they're stating that if you're age 45 or above, you make up 54% of the legal secretaries out there. And among that group, 55 and above is half that. So they're stating that what you're going to probably see is that jobs are going to be replacing those that retire, as opposed to new growth. They're estimating that 75% of all the jobs, they're estimating like 4,300 jobs next year nationally for legal secretaries. They're saying 75% of that is going to be replacement, and like 25% is that it's going to be new growth. So that's good. That's all good.
Greg mentioned the article in the Wall Street Journal. I mean, the actual title of this article was "The Dying Job of Role of a Legal Secretary," and I ran across that when I was preparing for this. And I'm like, well, that's a little scary. And then I ran across another article that said there's never been a better time to be a legal secretary because you are so essential now. So I think that's sort of a mixed message, except I think what the articles were speaking to is that if you think of what your role was 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10, however many years you've been in this, that job doesn't exist anymore. But there is a job for a legal secretary that is different. It's much more technology. It's much more project-based. It's much less document-based. It's not just creating letters. It's not just typing briefs. I mean, so much of the creation of documents has been taken over by your attorneys, but it's the practice and being more involved with the running of the practice that is really a skill set that the people are looking for. And also, there was something else that just slipped my mind, so let me think about that for a second.
Well, here's one point of interest. I found it when I was doing my research. I found out that this is the first time in the nation's history that 4 generations are working in the same workplace. You've got traditionalists, baby boomers, Gen X, and Gen Y. First time in the nation's history we had 4 generations working together. So that's showing you that people are working longer, and they're also recruiting at both ends, the younger end and maintaining the older employees.
One of the things that Sherri mentioned is, we're hearing and reading and seeing more and more about efficiency. It's how important it is to find efficiencies in our work. And I want to share with you that Kia, the car company, has an attorney who is inside counsel for Kia. And he decided that to pay outside counsel for their services, the attorneys he would hire would have to pass a technology test. So he wrote a technology test that he could complete in 30 minutes. And it was document formatting using automatic numbering and styles, and it was using Excel and a few other things. Okay, let's just pause and think about that for a second. So he could complete it in 30 minutes, so he figured anybody else that he was going to hire should be able to complete it in 1 hour. He has given this test to 10 times, to 9 firms, and no one has passed it. Okay? So his point being, in fact, the firms that he ended up hiring, he reduced the amount he was willing to pay them because they could not pass the test of his acceptable level of the use of technology. So, for example, he would require that people know how to cross-reference a document, so if a section changed, it would automatically update, because it's a function that if set up properly, a document can be updated, in his words, 12 seconds. But if it's not, it took someone 2 hours, and he wasn't willing to pay someone 2 hours to do something that he knows there is technology to do. So now, whether we will ever get our attorneys to that point, I don't know, but I think the same principle applies. Clients are really looking for efficiencies. You know that even from the way that they require your billing, I inhaled 0.1 hour, I exhaled 0.1 hour.
Right.
So you can't just put down that 2 hours, I did this and this and this. You have to be very specific sometimes in the way you bill. And I think clients are really driving efficiencies because they're not going to pay someone, they're not going to pay an employee, someone they're employing to be inefficient. And I think that trickles down to the legal administrator, the legal secretary's role, in that, we can't afford for you all to be inefficient either, because that's a cost to the firm. If you're taking 2 hours to do something that we have technology that could do in 12 seconds, it's not $400 an hour, but there is a cost to that. So I think you're going to see lots of drives toward using technology to help you become more efficient.
All right, and I found it interesting that article that the shortest, he gave an hour as considered passing. 2 hours was the shortest, 8 hours was the longest.
Yeah, and one person did leave the test in tears. I don't know who, but
Nah,
yeah.
or would have been me.
Yeah.
Other things that are coming, there's a popular, have anybody heard of LPOs, legal process outsourcing? That seems to be a trend that's coming down the pike. Law firms, well, let's go back. We all know that there's a federal law back in 2006 that allowed electronic discovery information like text messages and stuff to go down to employee level, so they can pretty much confiscate your phones or your laptops and stuff, collect data from there and make it submissible in court. And there was a modification in that in 2010. But the big push for this electronic discovery is a skill set that is beyond a lot of law firms' abilities. So they're partnering with these LPOs. That may be a company that specializes in electronic discovery or research, more of the technical level. So you're going to see more partnerships coming down the pike, partnering in those areas. Is that what you've discovered in your research as well?
Yeah, I think so. The other thing that in that research I was doing, talking about outsourcing, what are the tasks that we can outsource to something, someone, some organization that can do it more affordably, cheaper, whatever. So, some things might end up being outsourced even at the law firm level, depending on the size of your firm. Space planning. Do you want to talk about?
The only other thing I was going to add is make yourself just very indispensable. You want anything that is not billable. I just try to wrap your mind around this concept. Anything that is not billable for the attorney, try to take that from the attorney. That's going to make you so valuable to the attorney that they can just keep focusing on those things. And when I mentioned earlier about project management, that is right along those lines. I mean, just learn what the attorney is doing being able to read the documents that they're producing, even if you don't necessarily type them or have a hand in them, but if you are filing them, even electronically, try to read through those, understand what's going on in their practice so that when that situation comes up again, perhaps you can already have those things prepared, or you know exactly what the attorney is requesting, and then you cut down on that instructional time, which again makes the attorney more profitable, more billable, that type of thing. And you are project managers, as a matter of fact, because as we talked last week, I think, you are even, whatever task you're given, you're working with the mailroom folks, you're working with the receptionist if, there's a client meeting, you're working with outside companies, all of that, like you're managing client calls, meetings, all of that. I feel like the title, legal administrative assistant, could also have a slash behind it, project manager. So that's definitely where I see this role going. So you have to be open to doing just about any administrative task and not those that are traditional legal admin tasks.
One of the other things that we're seeing is, we've gone from where perhaps you at some point were a one-on-one or a two-on-one, or maybe even you're longing for the days of three-on-one, where your team was you and your attorneys, or you and your attorneys and paralegals. And what we're seeing now, the trend's going to more teams maybe based, larger groups, more, I don't like to use the word pool because that has kind of a bad connotation, I think, but teams of people where maybe it's multiple folks who would be a legal admin assistant or secretaries, but they distribute the work more by task than by person. So maybe there's 10 attorneys and there's 3 support staff, and the support staff don't divide up these 3 people, these 3 people, and these 3 people. It's more task-based. So more that maybe I love dictation, so if there is any, I'm going to do that. And I'm more technical, so I do the e-filing and I do this. So more of a task-based, and that would be a larger team, and you have to team with your coworkers. I mean, you're already doing a lot of teamwork, like Sherri mentioned, with other departments, and then really moving from that attorney secretary team to larger teams, perhaps being more focused on tasks or talent.
And efficiency is the word.
Absolutely.
Is the key for the future. I think they're also projecting that there will be a team made up of partners and attorneys and support staff, this higher level team that's going to monitor the firm to make sure they're meeting the client's goals, meeting the firm's goals, and their core purpose will be to make sure that efficiency is what's going on in the firm. And as for career path, there's not really been a whole lot of career path opportunities for legal secretaries, but one projected new position that may come out of all this is something they call a client service coordinator. So what they'll look for is who in the firm is a legal secretary that has the highest organizational skills, has the highest technical skills, that could be part of this bigger team that can help guide them to make sure they're meeting the client's goals and they're meeting the firm's goals.
That's a good point. We have created 4 of those positions within our firm, and that's exactly what they do. And they work directly with the client, with the attorney. They also then work with legal administrative assistants, and our firm trusts them to do a lot and maintain that client relationship just as much as we would our attorneys. So that is a very good point as far as a career path.
Recommendations?
Recommendations, I would definitely say, and you've probably picked up the vibe here, continue to keep your skills sharp as far as technology. Just learn. Any opportunity that you have, I think from a couple different perspectives, especially if your firm has on-site learning or offers any on-the-job training, show up. Absorb it. You're being paid to do that. I think from an HR perspective, when I do ask our trainers who attended, even if it's mandatory or required, as we like to call it, those that voluntarily go to those to learn more personally, professionally, for whatever reason, I think that always sticks in the back of my head. When I see an assistant out, I'll be like, oh, she's gone to every training that we've ever offered. So then I also know when we do get special projects and things like that in, I remember, oh, she went to that training. So it may have been a while and she might need a refresher, but she's going to get the work. She is likely going to be the person that's going to be on the top of my mind as far as any promotions or elevations, things like that. So I think just definitely keeping your technology skills up, that would be my top recommendation for sure.
And there are some things that are out of your control. I mean, you can't control market trends. I mean, you're one person, you can't. But I gave everybody a flyer. It's the take the self-assessment test. After the seminar, go through that, and that's something that you can control because it's taking a look at yourself. What role am I playing in all this? How can I, keep performing at my best? And it's something that maintains your marketability because I think that's why we're all here. Is we want to learn how do we maintain our marketability.
One of the things that Sherri talked about was taking advantage of any in-house training that you have, and I, as a trainer, of course, want you to do that. But I also want to kind of caution people. I think it's very easy, and I think we're all guilty of this at some place in our life. I'm too busy. And you have to be careful with that because are you too busy to go to training because you're doing things in an efficient way that if you could go to training, you could learn to do it better, but I'm too busy, so I don't have time. So at some point, it has to be your decision as much as possible to just say, I'm going to make the time. I'm going to do this. I'm not going to let myself fall behind. If you're using Word the way you used it 3 years ago, you're missing out. If you're doing anything the way you did 3 years ago, you're probably missing out. There's probably better ways of doing things. And one of the things I'd recommend too is, and this kind of falls both into where are we going and recommendations, is look at your workflows. How are you doing your work? Does it make sense? It may have made sense when you set up that workflow 3 years ago when you worked for 2 people in this certain area of law. Does it still make sense? Is there a better, more efficient, faster way of doing something? Because over and over, as I was preparing for this, we're seeing things where people are looking at workflows and trying to find efficiencies. And again, I'm going to tell a story. A particular person worked in a particular department and had practice group specific software that printed out a report that if this person would have let us work with her, she could have exported that and brought it into an Excel spreadsheet and been done in about a minute. She would print it out and rekey it because she found typing relaxing. Okay, I understand we all would like to have a moment of relaxation in our day, but I don't think that's a career-enhancing move. That's a pretty extreme example, but look at your workflows. Is there a better way? And even if you don't know if there's a better way, if there's someone in your firm, if you have a trainer, if you have technology people, don't be afraid to ask, hey, this is what I'm doing. Is there a better way? Worst case scenario, you're going to find out you've got the best process going, and good for you. But if there is a better, more efficient, everybody's going to go home with perhaps an ounce or two more energy.
Just to expand a little bit more on that training, even if you're in a smaller firm or a larger firm that does or does not have in-house training, really, from my perspective, it is not necessarily the firm's responsibility to train you to do what it is that you've chosen as a profession. So there's so many free websites. Do some things on your own time. I think that also pushes you to the next level and makes you an expert, perhaps, in certain areas that, maybe you don't use daily, but you're learning on your own. To me, the fact that this many folks are in this room and this is how you chose to spend your lunch hour, I mean, you guys already know that, obviously. So good job on that.
And if your firm doesn't offer any kind of in-house training, contact the Registry. We have a partnership with a software company that we can train you on pretty much, there's a training software on pretty much all the Microsoft Office and so many different things that will give you a day pass that you can go in there and pick the class that you want, and then we'll give you a key code, and you'll have 30 days to complete the tutorial. So if you don't have it, but you need access to it, you can come to our office to do it, or you can do it at home. It's all online, so you're more welcome to it.
And as far as, software goes, one of the things that we're seeing more and more of is everybody still, of course, needs to know Word, and we all probably could be better at Word than we are now. But I'm also seeing a lot more need for Excel and PowerPoint. I mean, the business world lives in Excel the way we have traditionally lived in Word. So if you don't know PowerPoint and Excel, that would be a recommendation I would have is get up to speed on those particular programs. Also working with PDFs. Those of you that know me know my joke that when we're the sender of PDFs, we love them, and when we're the recipients, we hate them. So you just need to know what software, if any, your firm has that allows you to do PDF manipulation. I mean, are you able to blend or merge or split? And if you have the tools to do that, you'll want to do that. Great skill set to have.
And converting PDFs to Word.
Right,
Once I
PDF.
discovered that, oh, wow, resumes come in, I have PDF, what am I going to do? Convert it into Word, and then it's easier to work with them.
So then you want to talk about recommending that?
And that's a good point. Mary suggested I talk about, again, we're talking about marketability, and you're probably wondering, what can I do to maintain my marketability if for some reason, and it's also in the self-assessment here, if there's a cry for help in the office for workload, what are you the type that is going to not go because you don't have the knowledge, let's say litigation, and you don't have that knowledge to help, so you're not going to offer your assistance. I think what they would appreciate, and you can tell me if you agree or not, that you would come and say, I don't know lick about litigation, but I will do whatever you need for me to do, just tell me what to do, is going to be much more appreciated than not. And I would say that, the registry's been staffing for we just celebrated 32 years, that I would say the number one request for when we get that phone call is somebody with litigation knowledge. And the more years experience you have underneath your belt, the more marketable you are.
That absolutely is true. When I call him, it's almost 100% of the time for litigation experience, because within a law firm environment, and again, you know this, core skills are transferable. It doesn't matter if you're, working in a document that's with healthcare law or tax. You can transfer those data manipulation, word skills, Excel, PowerPoint. Knowing litigation and their processes, forms, what to look for, what all the big fancy words mean, I think that just really takes a unique skill set, and that was on my hit list too, to discuss, learn litigation. I think just having a familiarity, don't be intimidated by it. Greg has a very good point as far as if you see a litigation assistant send out a message for help. I think it sends a very strong signal about you if you offer to help and you can just disclose right away, I have not done this before, can I take a piece of it or whatever, and they can break it down, and that would really help the workflow. And you never know, that might be a practice area that you might want to evolve into. I mean, we all know you can move around in different areas, and so the more well-rounded your skill set is, definitely the better off I think that you would be.
One other, and this is sort of off the wall, but this comes from my training and former help desk experience. So often you're in a situation, you have a question, whether you have trainers, you have help desk that can help you or not. If you are finding that you have to go online to look for answers, look for school sites. A lot of colleges have technological information out there, so if you're Googling, how do I do this particular thing, if you find a college, usually they'll end in the .edu, I find that their materials are written for non-technical people. I will confess, us tech folks sometimes speak a language that's a little foreign, or you can read the instructions and go, boy, the person that wrote that really knows what they're trying to say, but I don't get it. I do find that if you look for sites that are from colleges, sometimes it makes it a little bit more understandable, for more of a written more for a lay audience. Microsoft has some good stuff, but sometimes they get their own language, and that can be a little bit confusing. And don't forget, if you were allowed to do this at your workplace, if not, do it at home, YouTube. It is amazing the amount of information that is available on YouTube. I mean, I have looked up things like, how to put in a section break, and sometimes hearing somebody say it and seeing it, depending on how you learn, can be a great way. Just don't get into any problems with policies your workplace has about watching YouTube. But that can be a really good site to kind of be actually go through almost like a video training where someone's talking you through it.
Yeah, ones to stay away from are like the community ones.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're the kings in their own heads.
Yeah, yeah.
Boy, they sure are confident about what they're telling me, but
Which
it's
may or
all
may not
wrong.
be right. Yeah.
No idea.
Right.
So schools are where to go.
Yeah. Any other recommendations we have?
We've told them everything we know in our heads.
Yeah.
In 40 minutes.
Mine's empty, is yours?
So I think at this point, Marguerite's going to pick up, if you had questions, I think there are cards on your table. If you have questions, if you want to hold those up, or if she's already picked those up, we'll. Uh-oh.
And if you'll, while we're asking these questions and getting answered, if you'll fill out those questions, if something comes to your mind that you've always wanted to ask a series of people like this, please fill out those sheets, and we will either respond to them today or we'll get back to you after the fact. So your question will be answered. If something's been burning in your gut for the longest time and you wanted to ask a legal administrator, a temp agency guy, or a training manager that, please consider it. So I do have some preset questions. For Sherri, what are the top 3 positive traits of a legal secretary that will help him/her keep the job, and what are the top 3 negative traits of a legal secretary that will get him/her terminated from the job?
Yeah, this is juicy. Definitely, I'll kind of categorize, but reading, understanding, and editing those complex documents, that is going to make you very invaluable. I know our attorneys appreciate it. They ask for it. That's what they want when I interview. That is very, very top on their list, very important. Also, yeah, and the proofreading skills go along that with that. Organizing and handling their schedule. They are great at just saying yes to everything. But having an assistant that says, no, you can't because you have, X, Y, and Z going on. So being very savvy with Outlook, organizing, running interference for them when other people in the firm are trying to get to them and you know that they're working on a deadline, definitely blocking that. And as far as when I say organizing their schedule, that is also like planning their travel. The biggest praise that I've ever gotten and continue to get from attorneys, and it's just like taken over at our firm, they love it when their assistant, when they are going to travel, their assistant, like before they walk out the door, hands them a packet that has every single thing they need. It has in one document, here's where you're going, here's your flight information, confirmation, here's your car, here's all this stuff. Perhaps even if they're driving to a meeting, perhaps even directions, all of that. Not only that, but they also include, and this is a little out of date because we now have a new software that does this, but if you don't have a software for tracking electronic business expenses, they loved when their assistant also provided a little envelope that has pre-printed on the outside what the trip name was and the dates. So as the attorney incurs different business expenses, receipts, whatever, he just puts it right in there, gets back from his trip, sits it right on the desk, and it's a little self-serving because it is a lot easier for the assistant, so she doesn't have to shake him down or her down for the receipts. So you all know what I'm talking about when I say that. So definitely that, and then just, it kind of goes back, but helping them with their administrative tasks. I said any non-billable thing that you can do to help is very helpful. So if it's reviewing their timesheets, their pre-bills, going ahead and filling out the entire business expense for them, those kind of things, I think just really engaging in what they are doing makes you very, very invaluable. So those would be the top 3 things I think are most appreciated in your role. The top 3 negative traits that could potentially get you fired, I guess, if you would want to make it that drastic. But it's the biggest complaint I get is cell phone use. Cell phone and internet use at your desk. I know we're all kind of attached to it, but it just sends such a message that work is secondary, and whatever you got going on in your personal life is so much more important. And especially, if the attorney walks up and you're, texting away, you're on Facebook, or you're, buying some great new shoes, which I can appreciate on a break or something. But if you're doing that, it just really sends the message that you're not engaged, or that you're not going to be paying full attention to what you're getting paid to do. So that's probably the top one. Unprofessional dress and speech. I think I get that from attorneys, believe it or not, and we are a very casual environment, but I think that for the attorney to feel very comfortable and confident with their assistant, they need to feel like they can communicate with their client in a professional manner and in appearance. You never know when a client's going to appear at your office, or the attorney needs something at the courthouse. You want to show up looking like you know what you're doing, and that the client is paying however many $100 an hour for the services. They're getting it not just with the attorney, they're getting it with the support of the attorney as well. So that would be number 2, just showing up to work, I guess, and flip-flops. It doesn't matter how many rhinestones they have on them. They're still flip-flops. So yeah, that's just a negative trait. Wouldn't necessarily get you fired, but and then just a negative trait that I hear from time to time would be reflective stress. So your attorneys, there's a lot of, and by reflective stress, I mean your attorneys are under a lot of stress. They have a lot of deadlines, pressures, all of that, and when they get worked up, and then you're the assistant, you get worked up, it's this whole vortex that just turns crazy. So having that calm demeanor about you, staying calm even though they might not be calm, that, it's not necessarily a negative trait, but being aware that even though they're spinning out of control, staying calm and helping direct them, it's invaluable. So,
Fantastic.
hopefully
Thank you
that
so
helps.
much. Greg, what should be the first thing a prospective employer should see on one's resume, i.e. what needs to be highlighted and what needs to be further down on the list?
I would say if you're new to legal industry and you've just completed your education or for a legal administrative degree, put your education first, because you're telling them, I'm committing to your industry, I'm looking for that break, put that more at the top. For a more seasoned legal secretary, and you've got additional education, you can put that more towards the bottom, because experience is king on a resume. And points that you probably want to include on your resume is that for each job that you worked, your first bullet point should be what that area of practice was, and your second bullet point may be how many attorneys you supported, because these are the kind of questions that are really important when they're looking through resumes. And if your law firms are maybe from out of town, I would maybe put the name of the law firm in parentheses, insurance defense law firm made of 100+ employees, attorneys. So they'll have a sense of what size they're dealing with. All this will really help get you that first interview.
Is there anything extra you could add to your resume to catch your attention?
Well, the reverse of that is don't add too much to your resume to the point where they're fishing for the information, you're having to dig out that information. Don't make it a cumbersome task. It should be very basic, very simple, no images, use standard fonts, because you may send something to somebody and their system had to convert the font to something they could read, and the spacing's off, and you're like, what did I just get? And even if it's a PDF, sometimes it can be manipulated in such a way as you're wondering, did the candidate submit this? Or,
Yeah, oops.
Oops. So I would stay away from images. Never put your face on there. I don't think HR is even allowed to receive something that has your face on it. And never put like a social security number, your date of birth. I've gotten all this. Personal information like that, no. You won't do that. Keep it basic and informative and powerful.
Okay, great. Mary, what ongoing training do you recommend for a legal secretary to stay, quote, at the top of his/her game, unquote?
Well, it would be any training you can get is the first thing I would say. If you have the opportunity for training, take it, because all you can do is increase your skill set. Even if it's not something you think you need today, if it lets you help out a neighbor, that's going to bode well for you. Mm-hmm. If you pick up a new assignment, that's going to bode well for you. It just gives you more tools in your arsenal. So especially in your core applications, if you're a Word and Excel in your practice area, make sure you know what other folks are doing and can keep up with them and just keep learning.
Cool. This question is for both Sherri and Greg. When reviewing a prospective candidate's resume, if the candidate has obtained legal certifications, either general or specific to a particular field of law, do you find that additional education of value in factoring the candidate's employment with your firm? And I have an ulterior motive for this question.
Well, I don't know what that is, but I will absolutely say that that is going to definitely put your resume on top of the stack for sure. I think the experience definitely is king, but having those extra certifications really does show that you have a commitment to the industry, not necessarily just, hey, I've been at this firm for a long time and this is what I've done. That really does show an extra commitment.
I agree.
Well, my ulterior motive is in that handout, the blue handout that you got, at the bottom of the list of all those great seminars that we've held in the past is a paragraph about a study group forming to get your Indiana Certified Legal Secretary Specialist certification. I just recently went through that. I and a study buddy, Nikki Hempmill, who's in the room somewhere, she and I studied for about 6 weeks, a couple hours a weekend, and we both passed. It was it really was a great accomplishment in that it filled in all these little nooks and crannies of my knowledge. I had done litigation, but never really understood, okay, you file the complaint and then what happens? So it filled out all of my knowledge, not only for that court, but appellate and supreme and punctuation and proofreading and everything. It just kind of refreshed everything I knew about being a legal secretary. I highly recommend it to start and to just get yourself re-energized about your job. So please consider that paragraph and contact me if you want to pursue or even just study with the study group, because it's a value no matter what level you study on. So back to the questions. I think we've got room for one more. Greg, what are the key traits you look for when interviewing a potential candidate for your company?
Well, and you can help with this if you want. Polish.
Yes.
They would, at their appearance, at their, nice suit. First impression is very important. Their presentation, how well they can articulate their skills and such. How well they test out on our software program, which will give us an idea of what their aptitude is on Word, Excel, and whatever programs that we put them on, and communication testing and such, and how well. It's all really one package, and there's this perfect legal secretary package that obviously nobody needs, but you want to try to hit as many of the points on that as possible, and is the polish, the presentation, the poise, how do you carry yourself, do you have a strong professional handshake, do you interact at a very professional level, and some of the stuff we can coach you on, and like how to interview, during the interview, what the do's, the don'ts and stuff to make sure that you put your best foot forward.
I could talk about this subject for an hour. I've interviewed a lot of candidates, and I've had some fabulous ones, and I've had some that I'm like, okay, come on, and texting while I'm trying to answer whatever question, like, oh, you're not going to get the job that way. Yeah. So turn that cell phone off. Just turn it off. Not even on vibrate. Take your sunglasses off your head.
Chewing gum.
Don't show up with your boyfriend. I could just go on forever. I have a lot of really funny interviewing.
We're going to be the same people.
Yeah. So I definitely think that spending a minute in the morning to take a look at yourself and be like, okay, I'm going to walk in there. I'm going to get this job. I'm going to look the part. They're going to want me to work there tomorrow. I think spending that extra time just to take care of yourself and get yourself centered, calm, make sure you know where you're going for that interview, because you walk in, you're prepared, but then you get the directions wrong and you're just frazzled.
Right.
The whole thing is just going to go crazy from there. But I definitely, like, my top would be just have yourself prepared for that interview and make that company want you to work there. So confidence speaks loudly.
Allow time
show
for
interest.
any parking issues.
Yes.
Like if it's St. Patrick's Day, stay away from downtown.
Yeah.
Don't park in his tow zone. Had that happen.
Thank you very much for your answers. I wanted to reintroduce you to Dixie Lawyer, our president of Circle City Legal Secretaries, and we're going to sum up the presentation. Thank you.
Well, again, I want to thank everybody for coming. This was an awesome, awesome lunch. Before I get into closing us out, though, I want to reiterate what Marguerite was telling you about our Indiana Certified Legal Secretary Specialist exam. And I want everyone in here to know you do not have to be a member to take this test. Anybody is eligible to take the test. All you have to do is get a hold of one of us members so we can get you the information, or go to our website. Our website also has that information on it. So feel free to give any of us a call, email, check the website out or whatever. And we are doing another study group. We're going to have another testing in October. So if you're interested, please let us know, because that way we can get things set up, make sure we got the study groups going. If we need one on both sides, all four sides of town, whatever, we will work something out. Okay? I want to thank our panelists tremendously for your time and everything you've done and talked about today. And on behalf of Circle City Legal Secretaries, I have a certificate for each of you just for our appreciation for you taking your time and your lunch hour for coming down.
No problem.
And
Thank you.
I have one last tip, you guys. When you go back, make sure your attorneys and or HR department know this is how you spent your lunch hour. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dixie.
Groupie.
But I want to thank everyone again for coming, and there are going to be certificates, so that way you do have those to take back with you for those of you who want to turn them into your HR or whatever. So anyone that wants information on Circle City Legal Secretaries, give us a call. I will be following up with emails, so feel free to ask any questions you want. And our meeting is concluded. Thank you.